Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I thought it would be fun to do like my payday routine, like budget with me, or not budget with me, but updating my budget, showing you guys how I do my budget and fill it out basically when we get paid, and then how I update it and track it and how I allocate my money. So if you guys are interested in seeing that, then just keep watching. Okay, so I have here my little budget spreadsheet, and the first thing that I went ahead and did, and I did this off camera, is I have like this little expense tracker over here, and I just bought this off of Etsy, but it's automatically formulated to where, you know, you put your categories in here for variable expenses, and then you can drop down and categorize them. So I went ahead and put my transactions for the week over here. That way I can just kind of, you know, go through and put them in the categories. But I went ahead and did that since that shows like my bank account and stuff. But I wanted to go ahead and show you guys kind of like my payday routine. So I get paid bi-weekly, and then Jacob gets paid every Friday. So I don't do this every week because it would be kind of a lot, but usually I do this on Fridays where we both get paid. And I just find that this is what works for both of us, and it works best for us. But I want to go ahead and kind of walk you through my process. So like I said, I put in all of the expenses for this past week, and then I also put in any bills that came out. So far we've only had our mortgage, my credit card, and our electricity bill come out this month. So I went ahead and input those over here, but we're going to start by inputting our paychecks. So you can see we got paid already. Week 1, Jacob got paid over what I budgeted, and I always try and budget on the lower side, so that way anything extra we get, we can just kind of put straight into savings or towards debt payoff. I've mentioned this in previous videos that we're really focusing on trying to pay down debt right now, and so I'm trying to work on like the debt snowball method. But we also have a house, we have 2 cows and a calf and a dog and a cat, and we live on some land where house expenses are pretty frequent, so we also have to account for that in the budget. And then I also work on the every dollar budget, so that is kind of like my method. But I'm gonna go ahead and input the paychecks. Jacob's paycheck ended up being more than we budgeted for, so it was $944 and some change. I'm just gonna put 50. I don't remember off the top of my head exactly what it was, but this is because he ended up working a Saturday, so that means he got 18 hours of overtime, which is why there's such a big difference in the budget versus actual. So I always try and budget on the no overtime side, and then any overtime we do get is just great and it's extra. And I find this is really helpful for us. And so I think that was a week where he wasn't working. I think he didn't work like Monday because it was a holiday. Yes, it was Monday. Okay, so he didn't work on a Monday because it was a holiday, but then he worked on a Saturday, so he got a full month's check. So sorry, that's not 18 hours of overtime. That is 10 hours of overtime. So anyways, this is kind of my carryover from last one, and then I ended up getting paid $21.07 and some change. I don't remember how much exactly, but we're just gonna say 50. And this is because I ended up doing my 401k now that I have been with them for a month. So now my 401k contribution is coming out, which is why this is less. So in the future, I will be adjusting that. So now we know that we have $24.03.07 to work with. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and categorize all of these expenses really quickly. Okay, so as you can see, I went ahead and categorized all of the expenses, and then this is how much we have left to spend, quote unquote. Now, what's really challenging is just that Jacob gets paid every week and that I get paid every 2 weeks. So this definitely doesn't happen that this doesn't happen every week. So I try and do this, like I said, on the weeks that we both get paid on Fridays. So the next thing I'm gonna do is go through and I'm gonna account for the bills that are gonna come out this month, which I think will, or this week, I'm sorry, which I think will just be these four. And then now you can see we have 1,000 left. This bill, this bill, this bill, and this bill are all flexible on the day that we pay them, so we don't pay them on a specific day that they come out. So what I'm gonna do, oh geez, I should have known, sorry, this will bother me if I don't fix it. Okay, is I think I'm gonna go ahead and put the car insurance into savings. So we actually opted to pay our car insurance every 6 months because we found that it saved us, I can't even remember off the top of my head, like $300 a year or something. That was definitely worth it. So instead of paying monthly to like the insurance company, I just put it aside in savings. Like I break it out, the total that it will be due by 6 months, and then account for it each month and just take it out and put it into savings. That way when the 6 months rolls around, we just pull it out of savings and pay for it. And it definitely works for us because it does save us some money. So I'm gonna go ahead and transfer that over. And then also, like I said, I try and not count for any of Jacob's overtime. So I went ahead and just took the difference between what he actually brought home and what I budgeted, which is this $314.50. And this is gonna go straight to his truck. We're trying to save up $2,000 to get the front end rebuilt because it's pretty much gonna go out at any day now, just like the Suburban is. So we're kind of struggling car wise, but this is what we use to get hay and do a lot of the stuff for the cows. So it's definitely a priority and we're getting really close. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that over here. So we've already budgeted, or like you can see this 130 I took from the difference between here. So I'm just gonna add this 315 here, which I think is 445, and then we'll do 75. And then I just like to do that because it helps me know that I did budget $100 for his truck that I haven't put into that account yet. And it's just important that we make sure we keep up with kind of where we're at here. So this amount left to budget is usually kind of not super accurate. So I don't really look at that after the budget's already been sent. That makes sense. That means we have about 500 left to spend. And this I will leave to kind of help as a buffer for right now, which I don't know, people might disagree. I usually do my savings at the very end of the month with whatever's left over because I don't know. Right now our priority is paying off debt, like I've said, and then also this truck expense is really high. So any extra money at the end of the month will go to savings and debt payoff. And I definitely know it's important to say, like, we still have savings goals that we're also trying to meet, and you can see, like, I definitely have money going there, but it's just not the top of the line priority right now. We're trying to get this debt paid off. That way we will have more money to then put into savings, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's kind of how I also like to do it. And then I also just like to make sure we always have a buffer for stuff that comes up, because it inevitably does, no matter how hard I try and plan for it. There's just, it seems like every month there's always something. But one thing that I will say that I have really tried to focus on, or that I really tried to prioritize before I started doing this, is I built up a buffer in my checking account. Because even though I do every dollar budget, I know sometimes people like to totally have no money in their checking account because they see that as spending money, and that's great for people, but I like to have a buffer just for in case something comes up in my checking, and usually that is my mortgage payment. And I do it that way because I get paid every other week, so not on the 15th and the 30th anymore. So I just want to make sure we have our mortgage payment as our buffer since it comes out at the first of the month. That way we always are able to pay that on time. So whenever it withdraws, it's there, and we don't have to worry about like late fees, or I'm sorry, not late fees, overdraft fees or late fees if it doesn't get paid on that day, if that makes sense. So I have a buffer built up of $2,500 in my checking account, and then I usually just keep a little bit extra for during the week. That way, you know, for those extra things that come up that I talk about that you never really know. So that's kind of how I budget my like payday routine, you could call it. Let me know if you want me to show you kind of how I do the closeout of the budget, because if you see, like, Jacob will still get paid 3 more times this month, and then we still have this, so it looks like we might end up getting some leftover money this month. So I could definitely do like a closeout video and show you guys how I do all of that, rather than just like the overview closeout I do in my monthly resets, if that makes sense. So if you want also like tips and tricks, I would be more than happy to do that, but I just kind of wanted to walk you through kind of how I do it and what works currently for me. This is definitely something that changes all of the time, how I go about doing this. So if you have any tips or tricks, leave them down below. I'd love to hear them. Okay, so I know I just went through all of that and I hope it made sense. I'm kind of worried that I was too all over the place because I didn't like write down my thoughts or kind of my plan, but I just thought I would maybe take a step back and chat with you guys on it. I want to go ahead and just put the disclaimer out there that everybody budgets and manages their money different, and what works for me might not work for you. What works for you might not work with me, etc. This is just what I have found at this time works for me and my family. But what I think is important is just being realistic. So I've watched, you know, quite a few of these on YouTube, and one thing that I really struggle with when I watch these is wondering how people don't have as many expenses as I do. I feel like it's really easy to, you know, compare yourself to everybody else that's out there and say like, you know, I have all of these expenses and, you know, I see them going to Costco, but I don't see them taking into account their Costco membership, or like, where's their Wi-Fi, and just, you know, all these bills that maybe we account for, they don't. But one thing that I know is a lot of times people are able to write off their expenses, which is fine. That's great for them. That's awesome. But I just want to make sure I'm always being like realistic and transparent with, you know, my expenses, my bills. And sorry if the lighting is changing. I just think that's really important, but also just don't compare yourself. Everybody's lifestyle is totally different. Like I said, I live on land. I have cows, I have pets, and that's a pretty big expense. And with that comes a lot of, you know, things that come up with the house, having to get trees cut down, having to get hay, having to make sure we can rebuild a truck. That way we can haul the hay rather than, you know, buying a new truck and getting into a paint, you know, it's just stuff that I have, you may not have, and you might have bills that I don't have. But I just want everybody to not compare yourselves, and just, you know, if you're looking to reduce your expenses, just take a look at it, go line by line and figure out, is this really necessary? Does it bring me joy? You know, just stuff like that I think is really important. But I wanted to, you know, go ahead and just say that I think the biggest tip that I have is just start with a budget, and always budget income wise on the lower end, and then anything that you get in addition to that, whether it's overtime or, I don't know, you sell something on Facebook Marketplace and you just get those extra income, don't account for it, never bet on that. And then when you do get it, either put it towards savings, put it towards debt, allow yourself a little bit of spending money, you know, wherever you're at in your specific situation, I think is really important. So like for me, trying to put that money towards Jacob's truck and debt payoff for right now, kind of the way we're going. And then also overestimate your expenses. And then that way, if they're less than that, that's more money you have at the end of the month to, you know, put towards something else. So I just think that that's really, really important. And I also like to account for my expenses weekly. And this might seem redundant to some, and you might not need to do this, but I found it's really helpful for me because it's easy to kind of forget how much money, say you've spent like eating out, or I don't know, for example, like this past weekend we had 3 family outings that we were eating that we had to pay for. So it's easy to kind of forget how much you've spent, or you know, if you've bought like random little purchases like coffee or a book, or I don't know, whatever your instance may be. I found making sure at the end of each week, counting all of those so you can see where you're at and be like, oh, I spent a lot here this week, I need to spend less the next week, or you know, whatever it is. So keeping on track of on top of that is also really important. And then just also, like I said, don't compare yourself. Everybody's journey is totally different, and that's fine. But I hope you can just kind of take this video, take some of the tricks that I do and apply them to your life if so. If it's not, then don't worry about it. But like I said earlier, if you have any tips or tricks for me that you found as helpful, leave them down below. I'd love to hear them. I'm always looking for friendly advice. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, then please subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.